I had a chance to sit down yesterday with the number 2 at the Secretary of Foreign Relations, Roberto Velasco, who is the Chief Officer for North America in charge of the relationship between the US and Mexico, to talk about all these issues and more. Let's take a look.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's great to have you here since you are the person responsible for the US-Mexico relationship. This show is about US-Mexico relations, and a lot of our viewers are confused. It seems like AMLO is more chummy with Trump than he is with Biden, at least what has appeared in the news media with people. And it seems like that AMLO is more ideologically aligned to Biden. Biden is a liberal. He is more focused on the poor. It seems like Trump was not focused on that. Why is that it seems like AMLO was more friends with Donald Trump?
Well, we had very difficult moments with the Donald Trump administration, but in the end, we were able to solve them through dialogue, through political negotiation, through diplomacy, and we got to a point where we had a respectful relationship with the Trump White House. I think that to some people seemed, as we were very close, I would actually say that it was simply, a normal result of having this effort to have diplomatic solutions to the problems that we faced. With the Biden administration, I mean, there were some people who thought by the beginning of the new administration that we were going to have conflicts and that we were poised for, a major breakdown between the two countries. But that hasn't happened. That hasn't materialized. The fact is that the two administrations are also getting along very well. And I do believe that it has to do with the fact that the two presidents, the two governments, we do share a series of core values. We do share a series of, ideas of what we want from the U.S.-Mexico relationship. And that is starting to get us to some concrete results, as we had with the visit of the Vice President of the U.S. in the last few weeks and the visit of the Secretary of Homeland Security.
Yeah, I understand. And when you were saying something before about AMLO's relationship with Trump, it seems that AMLO has been very strongly caring for Mexico's sovereignty. And what some critics are saying is that his passion about sovereignty has been, excuse my pun, trumping his passion about the ideology that the president's face, and a concern that the Biden administration would be more focused on Mexico's rule of law or labor relations or the things that have happened in USMCA, where Trump basically said, listen, help me protect the border and you can do whatever you want. Is this accurate?
Well, I mean, we negotiated the USMCA both with the Trump administration and then also with the Democrats in Congress, but mainly with the Trump administration. So it's a treaty that it's bipartisan. And the rules that are there regarding labor are actually, rules that we negotiated also with the previous White House. Now, with this administration, with the Biden administration, I think the two administrations are pro-labor. We do want to have, better conditions for workers in the two countries. So I don't see there's going to be a confrontation on that. There are other issues where we will have differences, but I think there's a commitment from both ends to work them out through the diplomatic channels. And yes, of course, I mean, the president does care about Mexican sovereignty. I think any country does. We have put an accent, in having a respectful relationship, and that means, respecting Mexico's right to make decisions on some of our own policies. But I think what we've been getting from the Biden administration is that we've been getting a respectful, treatment, and we are solving many of the challenges that we have, between the two countries.
Right, but the Biden administration does have a lot more pressure with labor, say, than the Trump administration, and it seems like AMLO doesn't really buy into this American exceptionalism that there's a beacon of what America does that the Mexico should do. And it seems like that could be a cause of a little bit of friction between the new administrations.
I don't see labor causing a friction between two administrations. I mean, the government of Mexico is committed with the labor reform and with having, freedom of union and with improving the conditions of Mexican workers, mainly because one one simple reason. We all believe that the fact that we didn't have labor rights that were being respected has, brought wages down, and that has over the years been decreasing the share of the capital that workers are getting in Mexico vis-a-vis what the business owners are getting in Mexico, and that has created inequality. So it's a way of fighting inequality, to have more freedom of union and to have the workers to participate more in what businesses are creating.
Okay. A lot of people, Americans who are living in Mexico, care deeply about the peso and the value of the peso. Tell me what, and I know this is an economic policy, but I know in foreign relations you also have some stake in that. What has been done to make sure that the economic situation has been stable with the peso?
It's actually, I would contradict what we were saying a little bit. A lot of the value of the peso is determined by the stability of the U.S.-Mexico relationship, because most of our trade is with the United States of America. When we had the USMCA negotiation, whenever we had, the rounds, and whenever we had problems in the negotiation, you could see how the peso with spiral, and that created a very difficult situation for Mexico. So what we're doing in the foreign ministry in that sense is, as long as we have a stable relationship with the United States, that contributes to the economic stability of Mexico and to the economic stability of our currency.
Right. Your boss, Chancellor Rod, is in Italy right now, really pushing for getting more vaccinations. President Biden has been announcing multiple times that he wants to send vaccines to other parts of the world. Are you satisfied with how the U.S. administration has been handling the vaccine rollout here in Mexico?
Well, we are obviously very thankful for this over 4 million vaccines that the U.S. administration has sent to Mexico. We are also very happy to see now that the U.S. is sending vaccines to other countries in the world, in Central America and in other places. So that's something that we certainly celebrate. Our vision has always been that all of the countries need to share the vaccines, because this is a pandemic. It's a global issue. It's not an issue of one country. So we need to take some measures to have, an equitable access throughout the world to the vaccines. And we're happy to see that the Biden administration is taking that seriously, and that it's now participating in COVAX and sending all these vaccines. And Mexico is doing the same as well. We've been sending now vaccines to the Caribbean, to South America, and to Central America, as a part of this commitment with sharing the vaccines between all the countries, not just the vaccine producing countries or the rich countries.
Right. Okay. Tell me more about the ambassadors. Right now, we know that Ken Salazar has been nominated to be the ambassador of Mexico. And the last two ambassadors had very different styles, where Roberta Jacobson, an Obama nominee, was very focused on policy. She was a State Department employee for a long time. And then we had Christopher Landau, who was really great about embracing Mexico and the relationship, but there wasn't a ton of things that happened in policy. What are you looking forward to with Ken Salazar? He was a senator. He was the Secretary of the Department of Interior. So he's got a lot of experience, but what are you looking forward to with his administration?
Well, I'm a little biased because I have a great relationship both with Roberta and with Chris Landau. I think they were both people who enjoyed their time here, who loved Mexico, who really got themselves into the U.S.-Mexico relationship. I didn't have to work many policy issues with Chris Landau. I don't think it's fair to say that he was not involved. And we had some technical level work that we had to do on several issues, for example, on water, where we had a major problem last year with the water sharing treaty in the border. And the same I can say about Roberta. Obviously, they had different styles, and Ken Salazar surely will put his own personal style to the ambassadorship. But I think that mainly what Mexico expects is to have someone, firstly, who is a trustworthy interlocutor with the White House, with the United States government. Secondly, someone who, as we said before, who understands Mexican sovereignty, who understands what we expect in terms of respect to our own decisions. And then beyond that, someone, who wants to build up on the U.S.-Mexico relationship and all the potential that it has. I was just in the border. We are signing, or we signed this MOU to build a new port of entry in San Diego, Tijuana. And that shows, the many different things that we can do between the two countries and how that can have a great economic impact and change the communities for good. So someone who understands that and who's willing to build on that is something that we will certainly appreciate.
Absolutely. Tell us more about the border. Right now, it's been closed since last year, and it's continued to be closed at least until the end of July, what I understand. How is that affecting trade, border issues? I lived on the border for 3 years, and I know that the relationship between those two areas are vital for economic improvement and development. There's a lot of violence in Reynosa right now. What is your outlook and your hope for the border?
Well, certainly it is something that has had a very negative impact on communities along the border. Firstly, I would say social impact, because a lot of the families in the border are binational families that have some family members in Tijuana, some in San Diego, some in or for example some in El Paso and some in Ciudad Juarez. I spoke at some point with the mayor of El Paso, and he told me something that I love, because he told me that he had some poll conducted there, and that 60% of people in El Paso reported having family in Ciudad Juarez, and 60% of people in Ciudad Juarez reported having family in El Paso. So it's just one, family, big family, and the fact that there are these restrictions to non-essential travel, to tourism, obviously creates problems for people who want to visit their families, who want to go back and forth for many different reasons. Secondly, the economic impact, well, it's not been, a total closure of the border. We did negotiate and allowed for commerce to keep happening, and the flow of goods has continued since the pandemic started. That was fundamental for the two countries, because otherwise that would have probably, simply created problems for our economies that were impossible to solve. We saw that at the beginning of the pandemic, when we shut down some parts of the economy, and that was breaking down the supply chains throughout all of North America. So trade has continued, but the main economic impact is that a lot of these communities, they are used to, go to the other side to buy things,
Absolutely.
to get some services, and then they go back to their community.
Go to school as well.
They go to school,
I was a teacher
exactly.
on the border, and I had
Exactly.
students that lived in Mexico and crossed over and went to the American school on the other side, and all of this has been broken down. When do you expect this to change?
We don't have a date yet. We're working with the White House, with DHS, with HHS to work this out. We have a meeting today later. From our perspective, we're ready to start having more flexibility on this measure, maybe have a pilot program in the California region. We've advanced really, enough from our perspective in the vaccination program in Baja California. So maybe we could start there. But well, we need to keep having these conversations and see what the US thinks about this. And hopefully by July 21st, which is the date when the current measures expire, we will have something different, because again, the impact in the communities, economically, socially, is very high, and we hope that we can start to end this problem.
Absolutely. Kamala Harris came down last month. I know that you were very involved in her visit. The news media reported that nothing happened, that there was I don't know if they were expecting fireworks or some kind of big announcement, but that was the perception, that really nothing was talked about. It was just more of a photo op. Do you agree with that? And what did you see there that changed things for the relationship?
On the one hand, I do believe that there were some important deliverables in this memorandum of understanding on technical cooperation for development in Central America and Southern Mexico. We also had, this working group on human trafficking and smuggling established, and some other things that we do believe are important. Obviously, I don't know exactly if they were expecting, as you said, fireworks or some big announcement, and they were a little bit disappointed. But the other important element of the visit was to build a personal relationship, a good and solid personal relationship between President López Obrador and Vice President Harris, because she's going to be working on this issue regarding the root causes of migration, both in Central America and in Southern Mexico. And that is an issue that is obviously very challenging. And we want both President López Obrador and her to have the possibility of calling each other and at any moment where we are facing, a complicated moment in this endeavor. So that was also very important. And I think we got good results on both sides. I mean, on the deliverables and on this, relationship building part.
Absolutely. Last question. You've been working with the U.S. now for a while. What have you learned most about the United States in your current role?
Well, I mean, I don't want to be presumptuous about the U.S. I think what I've learned the most is about the U.S.-Mexico relationship, the potential that Mexico and the U.S. have by working together, and how we can improve this. We are two countries that we have different cultures, we have different ways of approaching politics, of approaching diplomacy. We obviously are all, proud countries, big economies, and that makes it even more challenging. But what I've learned is that the two countries do understand that we need to work together, that the people in the two countries not only understand this, but they want to work together because they understand that it's in their benefit. All the people in the border, for example, they know that there's no future if we don't work together to solve all of these different challenges that we have in that region, and that we will be more prosperous and richer if we do so. So I think that has been the main lesson, that there are all these challenges just because of the sheer size of the border, which is, I always say this, but it's the size, similar to the size of the linear distance between Madrid and Moscow. So obviously, it will never be easy to manage a territory as big as that. And just because of that, we will have many problems along the line. But naturally, we have those challenges, but people understand that we need to figure them out, and we need to do so through diplomacy. And we have a great human capital on both sides of the border now that wants to work that out. As you, for example, we have a very big community of US people here in Mexico. There's a very big community in the United States. Absolutely. So I'm sure that the relationship will keep improving over time.
Right. Maybe next time Vice President Harris comes, you should take her to a Pumas game and give her cueritas, or maybe to a taqueria to really get her to understand.
Actually, while she was leaving, she told us that she has been here in Mexico a few times. She has some family here in Mexico.
To Mexico City, or has she been to Cancun?
That's what we discussed. We told her next time we'll take you to Oaxaca.
Exactly, right. She needs to go deep into Mexico to understand it just as much as we do, and love it. You say 1 million Americans. I know there are many Americans here in Mexico who really love it and feel like it's their country, which is why your work and the work of ensuring that the relationship is strong and a good understanding is super important for all of us. So thank you so much, Roberto, for joining us. Roberto Velasco, we appreciate your time.